Hello, everyone. Thank you for stopping by the Easy channel. Now, in today's video, I have a very special guest here with us, HazzaChinaVlogs. Now, if you watch China-related content, I'm sure you'll be familiar with his face. He has an amazing channel, and he is sharing his life here from Guangzhou. But if you haven't seen his channel, please check it out. I love his point of view. He's trying to bring positivity to this world and bridge the gaps between different points of view. So yeah, which is cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
And I really appreciate you doing this with me.
No, I mean, I've been looking forward to talking to you for a long time, actually.
Really?
Ever since I first discovered your channel. You know, you just sort of, sometimes you discover people and you just kind of feel like you click in a way, like you're on the same page. And I feel like probably
I'm really glad. I mean, it's amazing who you run into on YouTube. I mean, YouTube's opened up a whole new world for me, you know. It even opened up the physical world for me, because without YouTube, I would not have started exploring Shanghai so much. But yeah, I found great people, and yeah, it's thank you for bringing the positivity to my channel. I really appreciate all your the comments you leave. So yeah, guys, to introduce Hazza to you, or Harry, aka Harry.
Thanks, mate.
He is a news anchor, or is that the right term? News anchor for Guangdong TV station, Guangdong News Channel, right? GDTV.
So I'm a television presenter and a news anchor for Guangdong Radio and Television. So I host radio programs and television programs for GRT.
Right. Yeah, which is, I mean, that's very cool to have you on this channel. I mean, I've never really talked to anyone who does TV before, let alone TV in China. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's, I don't know. Everyone kind of seems to think that working in television is like extremely like glamorous and exciting or whatever, but it's kind of just like any other job, you know. The longer you do it,
you're in that world, so that's how you see it. But for us guys from the outside looking in, we're like, wow, you know, you're on TV. That's amazing. So I'm sure a lot of people would be very curious to find out more about your job. I know the reason I want to do this is because I'm personally very curious about different aspects of it. So yeah, I have a few questions for you, and if you don't mind, we can jump into it.
Awesome, let's do it.
First of all, I would really love to know how did you end up working as a news anchor in China? What's your story?
So actually, when I first started at GRT, I wasn't a news anchor. I was a host of a talk show. And it's actually because during university, I was singing. I was making cover songs of Chinese pop songs and posting them on Chinese video sharing websites. And some of them went viral. And then after university, I worked for a radio station in Brisbane for a while. And then I came to China for a holiday because some people through Weibo had contacted me about some opportunities in China. So I came here for a holiday. My initial destination was Beijing, but then there was this drama with the airline losing my luggage, and you know, I had no winter clothing. It was the middle of winter. And so I just basically looked on the map and said, where can I go that's a little bit warmer? And I thought, you know, Guangzhou is probably a good choice. So, you know, people who have been to Beijing during the winter time know that it's, I mean, it can feel a little bit grey and kind of a little bit gloomy due to the weather. But then when I came to Guangzhou, you know, it was the middle of winter, but there were still, you know, green trees and flowers everywhere. And it was a lot warmer compared to Beijing.
Palm trees, right?
yeah, it was more tropical, and it felt a little bit more like home.
Mm-hmm.
And just coincidentally, someone from GRT, it was called Guangdong Television at the time, contacted me via Weibo and wanted to interview me on his talk show. He was a producer
Right.
of a talk show called FaceTime, which is the talk show that I still host at the moment. And I guess it was just luck, you know, being in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I must have made a good impression somehow, and I got offered a position as a host for the talk show FaceTime, and then so slowly over the years working for GRT, I started working on different programs. I started doing radio, and then I moved into news and reporting, and then became a news anchor for our news show
So,
called Guangdong Report.
so this is those programs are in English, right? Or do you do them in Cantonese as well?
So I do some programs in English and some programs in Chinese, and occasionally I do some programs in Cantonese, but my Cantonese is terrible. So I always try my best.
I'm sure you're being modest.
No,
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 I'm
no.
sure.
I'm definitely not being modest. My Cantonese is terrible. I really need to put in a lot more effort to improve my Cantonese. But because we are in Guangdong, and we have a channel that is a Cantonese channel, and it's one of our highest rated channels.
Wow.
So we have a lot of entertainment programs on that channel, and yeah, so. I often get invited to participate in those shows, and I do my best to keep up with the Cantonese. And I think maybe they enjoy inviting me on those shows just because it's hilarious to watch me struggle in Cantonese. To be honest.
Well, now you're in a puzzle. Should you learn Cantonese and then you miss those opportunities for them to enjoy that, or or not?
Yeah. So maybe I shouldn't learn Cantonese. Maybe I should just stick with Mandarin. But yeah, I do programs in English and in Mandarin and occasionally Cantonese.
I was just wondering, for those English programs, who is the target audience for those like TV shows? Is it expats in China, or is it broadcasted abroad as well?
So basically, the English programming is broadcast locally. So it's meant as a service for expats in Guangdong, just, you know, to keep foreigners here in the province up to date with the news that's happening in the province. But it's also broadcast overseas in a number of countries. It's also broadcast in Hong Kong. And I should know this, but I'm not exactly sure how many countries our channel broadcasts to, but also our radio programs are broadcast in Europe as well, in a number of countries, the English radio programs. So
maybe you ask them tomorrow, you might be surprised. You might be actually broadcast all over the world.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes people from the United States send me little videos on WeChat. Chinese people living in the United States send me little WeChat videos of my programs, and they're like, "Oh, look, you're on the TV in America," and
wow,
like, wow, yeah, because I generally don't usually watch my programs. I just like the process of making television.
I'm talking to a celebrity, guys. I mean, really, TV. That's amazing.
In Cantonese, I'm just Kelefe, just, you know, nobody.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Don't do this. This is a very different type of work from. I mean, you say work is work, right? But it's different from most other things. So I was wondering, what is it about your job that you enjoy? Because I think you really, I've heard you speak about your job before on your channel, and it seems like you really enjoy your job. But could you tell us what are the top things that you enjoy about it?
Well, probably the thing that I love most about my job is the fact that it allows me to meet so many different people from all around the world. Because especially the talk show that I host, we interview diplomats from all different countries. So I've interviewed consul generals, I've interviewed ambassadors, I've interviewed, you know, people from like every continent across the globe, and you know, I just love hearing their stories. You know, why they're in China, what they're doing in China, their thoughts on China, and it's just, you know, because I'm actually kind of like a shy person, so when I'm not in front of the camera, I'm really quiet, and I don't generally go up to people, or you know, I'm a little bit shy. But when you've got that sort of interview cap on, you don't feel bad about going up to people and just talking to them and asking them a lot of questions, you know, whereas like, sorry, Mei Ling's making a lot of noise again. Whereas if, you know, if I was at an event or something and I just went up to somebody and just started asking them random questions, you know, like, what do you think about this? Or where do you come from? And, you know, you know,
what is your salary?
Yeah, people would be like, I mean, are you for real? You know, but yeah, I just really enjoy it because obviously, you know, I get to talk to people on camera, but also off camera as well. So I've made a lot of friends through my work, and just people from all across the globe. And who would have thought that, you know, in Guangzhou, China, that I would have the opportunity to do that. So that's probably the best part of my job. It's just, you know, being able to talk to such a wide variety of people and hearing so many different perspectives on a lot of different issues.
It sounds a bit like actually kind of like having a superpower, you know, having the ability to ask questions without feeling awkward. You know, it's like, well,
yeah,
you know, do you want to fly, or do you want to ask anything you want from that guy? I think, you know, that's actually one of the good options. And I was wondering, these questions that you ask to these, you know, very high up people like ambassadors or whatnot, do you write them yourself, or is it something that your network gives you? Can you slip in your own questions?
Yeah, so I work with the producer of the program to write the questions, and it depends on who we're interviewing. So some people like to know what questions we're going to ask in advance, so we'll send them a copy of those questions. But usually in an interview with, you know, it doesn't, regardless of who it's with, you know, even if you have a set of questions that you tend to ask, you know, depending on their answers, you might just suddenly come up with another question that you want to ask. So it's more of like an outline for a conversation and or a guideline. So yeah, definitely, I love, you know, asking questions and putting people on the spot sometimes.
Are there any red lines that you can't cross when you know?
Well, I guess it depends on who you're speaking with. So obviously, you know, some people will just directly say to you, you know, I don't want to talk about this, and then I'll respect that. So you know, for example, you know, I've interviewed people who have come to Guangzhou for concerts or performances, and sometimes their managers will just say, you know, there are a few topics that we would like to avoid, so please don't talk about this or don't talk about that. And in that case, I will respect that, and you know,
sure,
yeah.
I mean, you have to give respect to certain people. I mean, it's like a guy who's in a high up political position, like an ambassador who's trying to build diplomatic relationship with China. Like you don't want to make them uncomfortable. Like they're not like a singer or an actor or a TV star, right? You want to actually respect the position, right? It's not a game show.
Exactly. So I mean, so the talk show is called FaceTime, and depending on the guest, it will have a different tone. So if I'm interviewing a diplomat, it will be more of a serious sort of atmosphere. Whereas if I'm, for example, interviewing somebody who's I don't know, gone viral on TikTok or Douyin or something like that, it will be, the tone of the program will be completely different. So but
more cheeky.
Yeah. So depending on it, and it always depends on the guest. It always depends on the guest, and everybody has some sort of different ideas about what they would like to do and what would like to talk about. So, I've interviewed consul generals over dinner. So it was a dinner setting, and we were sampling food from his country. And it was just kind of just a casual conversation while we were trying different imported foods from his country. So, even when you interview diplomats, you can find creative ways to make the program a little bit more interesting for the viewers.
Yeah, so it's about making them feel comfortable, right? I heard so I come from a bit of a music background where eventually my dream would be to work with artists and record them in the studio, and producers who have already been in the game for a while always keep telling us, the students, that you have to create the atmosphere in the studio for the artist. Like the artist, he is the star. You have to make him feel totally at home, whether it be turn off the lights or bring a candle or bring him a beer or bring him a cookie, whatever they want. You need to make them feel comfortable. So maybe it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I think it is really important to make the guest feel comfortable. And it's actually interesting because quite often after we've finished the interview, the guest will ask me, was that okay? Did I do well?
Oh, really? They're the ones under pressure.
So I think, for a lot of people, like being on TV, it can be a daunting experience. Because I guess in a way, I don't know, it's almost like stage fright in a way, even though it's, just cameras that are filming you, but in the back of your mind, you still think about the fact that there could be millions of people watching this program once it goes to air. So I think
about the way you sit, the way you smile, the way you look at someone, the way you reply, everything. Can be quite of a pressure cook if you're not used to it. But
I think,
that
think the best outcome. You go ahead. Sorry.
No. So you go on.
I was going to say, I think the best outcome is when you're just yourself, because I think people tend to relate to that more when you're just being yourself. And I think people appreciate that because, sometimes you watch television and you look at people and you think, is that what they're really like, in person? So I generally just try to be myself, and when people ask me, like, how is this interview going, or how do I look or whatever, and I just say, just be yourself, just you want
to be human,
be yourself, and it'll be fine.
Do you find that difficult, or what are the most challenging aspects of your work?
The most challenging aspect. So I do a lot of programs where we don't have teleprompters, and that is really difficult, especially when the program is in Chinese, because we have obviously we have sort of like a framework of how the program is going to go. because television shows are not just like, you know, you turn on the camera and see what happens. There's got to be a purpose for the show. But I remember one year I went back to Australia, and I booked tickets to watch a Big Brother eviction. I don't know if you know the show Big Brother.
Yeah. Oh, that's a thing in the UK as well. We used to have a Big Brother show. Yeah.
Yeah, and I went to the eviction, and I just remember during the entire filming, you know, there were like 4 or 5 teleprompters everywhere, and I just remember
for Big Brother.
in the
Oh my
studio,
God.
yeah, for the host of the program, and I just remember sitting there thinking, wow, that would make my life so much easier if there were like 4 or 5 teleprompters, you know, all around me, so that I could, you know, look in different directions and just read from the teleprompter. That would just make my life so much easier because,
Wow, that they make it look so natural, though. I mean, the TV presenters of these kind of game shows, like, I would never imagine they had teleprompters. It looks amazing. It's yeah, it really is a skill to be on TV.
Yeah. So I would love more teleprompters. I do use a teleprompter when I host the news, obviously. Because
that has to be line for line, right?
It would be impossible to memorize. Yeah, it would be impossible to memorize like an entire news program. You know, half an hour before you get into the studio, especially names and dates and everything like that. But
is it possible to jump in to report in a news story without having had a look at it before? Are you confident enough to have a brand new, fresh news story teleprompted, and then you can tell it the right way, or do you have to have a little bit familiar with it?
So usually I will go through the scripts before we record, just to familiarize myself with the scripts. But sometimes if, you know, due to scheduling, or if I'm busy doing another program and I rush to the studio to do the news, the first time, you know, that I read the script might be in the studio. So I've done that a couple of times where I just, you know, read from a teleprompter without knowing what's coming. So yeah. And reading from a teleprompter is actually a skill in itself. It takes a while to
I was going to say, you have to be actually, you have to have experience to be able to do that. You know, not being familiar with the story, but that just read the teleprompter in the right kind of tone and everything.
And also, another challenging aspect to my job is sometimes I work really late. I mean, sometimes we film programs, we start at 9 o'clock in the morning and we might film all the way through to 10 or 11 at night. And you know,
is that for one show or for more than one show?
Day. So we might film more than one episode per day. So sometimes that can be a little bit challenging as well, because in the morning, you know, you're full of energy, you've had your morning coffee, you've had a good sleep, but by the time it gets to around 5 p.m., you know, you're starting to get a little bit drowsy and losing enthusiasm.
Tell me about it. This kind of, I mean, this is on a different playing field completely, but it kind of reminds me of, you know, being a teacher on the weekend in training centers. That's the busiest day. So I'm just going to make it a bit about my job for 1 second. But I just know what you mean, you know, because training center, you're working with like 4-year-old, 5-year-olds. It's all about fun and playing games. So, you know, you're jumping around, dancing, singing songs, and, you know, for your first lesson, it's okay, right? You just woke up, you have coffee, but then by 5, as we say, you're like, oh, clap your hands.
Looking at the watch, you know, how long have we got to go? And that's not the worst. I mean, I love my job, but, you know, the most tiring thing to do is festival specials. So, for example, like the Lunar New Year Gala. So our station has a Lunar New Year gala every year. We didn't have one this year because of the pandemic, but wow, those are massive productions, and lots of rehearsals. And it just basically consumes your life for like 2 or 3 days, because a lot of work goes into putting those Lunar New Year galas together, because on Chinese New Year's Eve everybody's watching them, and they run for hours, so there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. And sometimes by once it's been filmed and it's over, sometimes I just go home and just get into bed, collapse into bed, and just sleep. And just sleep.
Have a great, absolutely great sleep. That's interesting. I didn't know that, different regions have their own galas as well. I thought it was just the main one on CCTV, but there's local ones as well.
Yeah, there are local ones. So usually each television, provincial level television station in China will have a Chinese New Year gala show. Actually, at GRT we have two, because we have one in Cantonese and one in Mandarin. So sometimes I do two per year.
GDTV is very busy.
And then trying to fit that in with news and other commitments, and so sometimes it almost feels like a juggling act, because I'm trying to fit all of these different things in, and it's like actually I need 36 hours today, but I only have 24.
High energy. I didn't actually expect that. I thought, from my imagination, a TV anchor is kind of a quiet, peaceful day. You come in, you read the script on your desk, and then you go to the studio. I don't know what I'm talking about, really. This actually leads me to my next question. What is a typical day, at work like for you? You come in, and then, before it's on air time, what is it like?
Okay, so basically, just on an average day when I'm not doing any special programs or anything like that. So I'll arrive at around 9:30 in the morning to the radio station, and then I'll start researching stories and writing stories. I write some of my own stories. Some stories are written by the producer of our radio program, and then I'll edit those stories. And then go into the studio, I'll record the news program, and then as soon as I finish recording the radio news program, then I jump in a taxi and head over to the TV station, because even though we're one company, the radio station and the TV station are not in the same location. So I'll jump in a taxi and then I'll head over to the TV station, and then basically the same process again, but for television. So writing stories, editing stories, and then after that's finished, going to the makeup studio, doing makeup. Yes, men on television wear makeup. And then going to the studio and actually recording the news.
Right. And in the studio, is it? Do they still use those massive big cameras that we see sometimes about TV programs on the in the movies?
Yeah. Yep. Those massive big. Those cameras. They still use those cameras. Yeah.
Wow, that's a real thing then. Yeah. Cool. How many people are there in the main studio?
So when I'm in the studio, I'm actually in the studio by myself. So we have a control room and a studio. So the technicians will be in the control room and I'll be in the studio. So when I'm recording the news, it's just me in the studio.
Okay. Probably makes sense because the microphone might pick up their sounds or something like that.
Yeah. And, the studio is okay, but sometimes, when you're recording programs and people forget to turn off their ringtone, put their phone on silent, and
Mm-hmm.
there's construction work going on, or
Mm.
there's always some kind of noise that disrupts filming every now and then. But that's just
Yeah.
a part of life in China.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially,
Chinese cities can be quite noisy, especially mega
yeah.
cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So finding a quiet spot sometimes can be a little bit challenging, but usually, we make it happen.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, some juicy stuff now. A bit
Okay.
about the controversies, right? And guys, I have a few people who have no idea about the China YouTuber world on YouTube, right? For example, my mom, she has no idea there's this whole anti-China, pro-China people on YouTube and stuff like that, and she doesn't know the whole drama. And there's a few people that are like that. So I just want to introduce the fact that there is this
There's
stuff
a
going
divide.
on. There's a big divide. Thank you. There's a big divide right now, and there's some extreme people on both sides that would love to go and leave very horrible comments on other people's channels. And I know you've personally have stumbled upon some very nasty comments, and you've talked about it openly. So they're mostly about you working for TV in China, right? And they call you all kinds of bad names. What do you say to these people?
It used to really, really affect me because it upset me because I felt like a lot of the comments were kind of an insult to my intelligence. Not that I'm that intelligent, but just so many assumptions. Like people calling me a puppet, people calling me Lord Haw.
What does that mean?
People calling me a traitor. It was an announcer during the war who hosted a program called Germany Calling. And it was I think it was a British national or somebody speaking in a British accent. And so basically it's a term used now to describe somebody that produces propaganda. So whenever people just say that everything that I'm doing is propaganda, it actually frustrates me because I would love for them to come to work with me one day and follow me around and actually take a look and see what I do and maybe that would change their mind. But the one that got me the most was when people started calling me a traitor, because I'm a very patriotic Australian. My employer knows that, and I take every opportunity to promote Australia and talk positively about Australia when I'm on programs here in China. But usually those programs are in Chinese, so all of those people who are calling me a traitor, they probably haven't had a chance to see those programs. And I think the fact that I work in China doesn't make me a traitor, because China is not Australia's enemy. It's for some people.
It shouldn't be seen that way, right? It should be.
Yeah. I've been here for 10 years, and until 2 years ago, a lot of people were very positive about what I was doing and thought that I was doing something that was very valuable, because obviously cultural exchange is integral when it comes to relations between different countries. And with a platform like a TV show, just having a friendly Australian face on television in China, I believe is something valuable. But suddenly, from 2 years ago, people started calling me a traitor, and I feel like it's just come out of nowhere, and it's inaccurate because China is not Australia's enemy. You know, we are not in a
Yeah.
war. There may
Yeah.
be some tensions at the moment, but we are still very much cooperating with each other. If you just look at the trade statistics, economy-wise, we're still very much working together as two countries. So, yeah, I think I very quickly had to grow a thick skin because I had worked in television for so long, and it was a one-way medium where
Yeah.
I would, you know, film a TV program and then I'd go home and I'd forget about it and I wouldn't even watch it. And if there was feedback, it would come to the TV station. And so I wouldn't have to deal with it directly, or people might contact me on my Chinese social media and give me feedback. But usually it was positive feedback.
Right.
But then after the COVID-19 pandemic started, and you know, during that time when I was spending a lot of time at home, even though the city wasn't in a lockdown, I was spending a lot of time at home. So, you know, I turned to social media to just kind of reconnect with the world. And I think I was a little bit naive in the beginning. I didn't really know how mean-spirited some people can be online. It was quite a shock for me, because I think that you know, you should always treat other people how you would like to be treated, and I think that comments that you leave online still are a representation of who you are as a person. And yeah, so I really had to grow a thick skin pretty quickly, and yeah, but sometimes,
yeah, it's understandable. I mean, as long as you know yourself what you're doing is right.
Yeah, and you know, the people that I work with are very respectful. I have an enormous amount of input into, you know, the programs that I produce and work on and host. And I think a lot of people, they have this kind of misconception that I rock up to work, someone hands me a script, and I just speak to a camera and say what other people want, which is just totally not true. That's not how my job works. And yeah, so I mean, obviously the media landscape here in China is different to Australia, but you know, just for everyday work-wise and you know, what I do every day, I don't think it would be that much different to what television presenters or news anchors back in Australia would be doing either.
Yeah, that actually, like, you know, leads me to a question. I was wondering, what is your take on the word propaganda? Like, what does that word mean to you? Like, what's the difference between, like, whenever people talk about countries like China, Russia, you know, Iran, North Korea, whatever, when they will never call news from that place news. They always call it automatically state propaganda, whereas, you know, BBC, The Guardian is called news. When I find it difficult to understand, if you're just, for example, spitting facts, right? You have a story, it's just facts. There's now no opinion behind it, for example, right? Like, there's a fire in this building, or, you know, vaccines are now available. Is that propaganda just because it's coming from this Chinese state media? Like, what is your take on the word propaganda, or at what point does it become insidious as opposed to just being factual news?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because in Chinese, the word for propaganda and promotion is the same.
Okay.
You know, that it's the same word. So I guess it's up to interpretation. You know, if people watch my programs and they think that it's propaganda, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But I mean, I don't know how you define propaganda, because to me, propaganda would be, you know, sending out a message that's false.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, right?
Yeah, whereas, I mean, you know, a big part of my job is fact checking, because it's, you know, news. I've said this a number of times. News in China is quite boring, because usually it's a lot of it is just it's statistics. It's just this happened on this date. You know, there's, at least on the programs that I work on, you know, there is very little room for opinion. But sometimes when you tune into, you know, other news networks or channels, sometimes opinion and news gets blurred. So, yeah,
when they sensationalize it, right? When you make a big deal out of a molehill, right? For example, CNN or something like that. It's more of an entertainment rather than just bringing new things to the people.
So, I mean, well, I don't produce propaganda. You know, I fact check. You know, I guess sometimes people, you know, sometimes people just like to use that to dismiss things, you know, when they don't actually have a counter argument. And even here on YouTube, when I, you know, create my own content and express my own opinions, people will leave comments saying it's Chinese propaganda. And to me, it's just like, well, hang on a minute. I'm an Australian expat living in China, and I'm creating my own content and putting it online. So how is it Chinese propaganda? Maybe you should call it an Australian expat's propaganda. I don't know. But you know, just people like to find ways to dismiss you without actually needing to come up with a counter argument. So yeah, I think I mean I try to reply to as many comments as possible, even the people that say, you know, some pretty nasty things, and some of the time they will respond and say, you know what, that was uncalled for, and then we can start a dialogue, and then they can ask me questions, and then I can give them my answers, and you know, sometimes they're satisfied with those answers and sometimes they're not. But
I think it's cool that you give, you know, people a chance, because if you reply to every single message, you never know, they actually might be able to dialogue and, you know, having an open mind about certain things. Probably not a lot of them, but even if it's like 10-20% of the people that leave completely, you know, ridiculous negative comments, if it's just 10-20%, but you've given everybody a chance, at least you can get those people to think rationally, which is good. Yeah. I think more people should have patience like you.
No, I mean, sometimes I can get a little bit cranky, but you know, I've seen that on Twitter, for example, like people like to post screenshots of who's blocked them, or screenshots of the people that they've blocked. But until this date, I haven't blocked a single person on any of my social media accounts, because I think even if people disagree with me, I'm happy to hear their opinion. I'm open to hearing their opinion. So
that's really cool.
I think that if more people could do that, then there would be a lot less conflict in the world, and you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's not an easy choice to make, you know, to be open to every single comment, and so I respect that, and yeah, good on you for trying to spread positivity and be very diplomatic about these things, because, you know, it's very unfortunate that the topic of China has become so politicized. Like, just living in China sometimes can, you know, make you a target for a nasty comment. Like, you wouldn't imagine the same thing about like being an expat in Japan, and suddenly your whole channel is full of political stuff.
Yeah. So sometimes, you know, even a video that's got nothing to do with politics will have a lot of political comments, and it just
from
shows
both sides, by the way. Yeah, from both sides.
from
There's
both
people.
sides. Yeah, from both sides. And sometimes people will argue with each other in the comments, and then so I'll leave a comment and say, guys, let's not argue. Let's try to just speak respectfully with each other, and because I don't want my videos to be a platform for arguing. I hope that my videos can offer a different perspective, but at the same time offer that perspective in a respectful manner. And then I hope that the people watching my videos will also treat other people that have opposing opinions with that same respect, because I think right now, especially in 2021, people like all over the world are having a really hard time. So, I think some people, we need a little bit more empathy, because you don't know what that person is going through. You don't know what that person is experiencing, and your one offensive, mean comment could just be, the cherry on top that just pushes somebody over the edge. And that's totally possible. So
it is
I
possible,
think being responsible online.
I was just saying, we call people trolls sometimes, and that kind of dehumanizes people. But at the end of the day, there's a real human behind each comment.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. There's a human behind every comment. So, I just hope that people can be a little bit more empathetic when they're online, and consider how the person who's going to receive that comment might feel while they're reading it.
So we're gonna try and leave it on this positive note, guys. I really appreciate once again Hazza for being on this channel. And by the way, guys, we have another video which is part 1 of our conversation, which is a more light-hearted topic about just being an expat in China, difference between Guangzhou and Shanghai. So please go check that out. And I hope we have more conversations in the future. This has been very interesting.
Me too. I mean, we've been talking now for like about 2 hours, and time really does fly.
Time really does fly. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you, and I think I just think you're a really cool guy, and that makes great content. And I think that you are kind of rare, in terms of the China YouTube scene, because just my take on it is that you're kind of just neutral, and I think that's kind of how I feel as well, because my thing is that I'm an expat in China. And
I'm just trying to be like, the guys who were here 10 years ago, and just, being an expat is a totally normal thing, living in Russia, living in China, just, you're experiencing new life and sharing it, not trying to be political.
So I think, what you're doing is really great as well. And I hope more people get a chance to see it. I hope more people get a chance to see your content.
Oh, yeah, well, that would be nice. That's always nice. I love producing videos, and if people watch it, that's all cool. And I'm sure people will hop over to your channel if they haven't already. I'm sure they know your channel. They're watching this one.
And if anyone has come here from the first part of this video on my channel, then thank you very much for coming over and supporting Vlad's channel.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it makes it a more fun experience when there's a community and people watching you and leave comments, leave their feedback. It makes the whole thing way more fun, and you never know who you meet.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you very much for having me on your channel as well. And
no, thank you. All right, everyone. We're gonna wrap this up for today, and peace, guys. Have a good one.
See you guys.